Savitri is speaking to the wonderful Godhead. Earlier she called him Kingsmith and urged him to weld her and Shraddhavan together inseparably into one wonderful sword to do his work in the world. And then she spoke about a musical instrument, the lyre. So don't break that lyre before it has found its true song. No? And now she's continuing with this theme of music. She speaks to the Lord, "O subtle-souled musician of the years, play out what thou hast fluted on my stops. Arise from the strain, their first wild plaint divined, and that discover which is yet unsung. I know that I can lift man's soul to God. I know that He can bring the immortal down. Our will labors permitted by Thy will, and without Thee an empty roar of storm, a senseless whirlwind is the Titan's force, and without Thee a snare, the strength of gods. Let not the inconscient gulf swallow man's race, that through earth's ignorance struggles towards Thy light. O Thunderer, with the lightnings of the soul, give not to darkness and to death Thy Son. Achieve Thy wisdom's hidden firm decree, and the mandate of Thy secret worldwide love. Her words failed, lost in thought's immensities, which seized them at the limits of their cry and hid their meaning in the distances that stir to more than ever speech has won. From the unthinkable end of all our thought, and the ineffable, from whom all words come. Then, with a smile august as noonday heavens, the Godhead of the vision wonderful, how shall earth nature and man's nature rise to the celestial levels, yet earth abide? Heaven and earth towards each other gaze, across a gulf that few can cross, none touch, arriving through a vague ethereal mist, out of which all things form that move in space, the shore that all can see but never reach. Heaven's light visits sometimes the mind of earth. Its thoughts burn in her sky like lonely stars. In her heart there move celestial seekings, soft and beautiful like fluttering wings of birds. Visions of joy that she can never win traverse the fading mirror of her dreams. Faint seeds of light and bliss bear sorrowful flowers. Faint harmonies caught from a half-heard song fall swooning mid the wandering voices jar. Foam from the tossing luminous seas where dwells the beautiful and far delight of gods. Raptures unknown, a miracled happiness thrill her and pass half-shaped to mind and sense. Above her little finite steps, she feels careless of knot or pause, worlds which weave out a strange perfection beyond law and rule. A universe of self-found felicity, an inexpressible rhythm of timeless beats, the many movemented heartbeats of the one, magic of the boundless harmonies of self, order of the freedom of the infinite, the wonder plastics of the absolute. There is the all-truth, and there the timeless bliss. But hers are fragments of a star-lost gleam. Hers are but careless visits of the gods. They are a light that fails, a word soon hushed, and nothing they mean can stay for long on earth.
Oh, softer soul that musicians of the years, play out what thou hast plotted on my stops. Arise from the strength their first wild plaint divine, and that discover which is yet unsung. I know that I can lift man's soul to God. I know that you can bring the immortal down.
Thank you. So she's addressing that wonderful Godhead, and she calls him musician of the years. He makes music out of time, out of the passage of time. Subtle souled. He's very refined and subtle in the music that he composes and plays in time. She urges him, requests him to play out what thou hast fluted on my stops. You have started to play something. Play it out until the end. She uses this word stops, which suggests an organ. An organ is a very, very large musical instrument which has not only keys but also pedals. It can be played with the feet, and it has stops that can be pulled out or not used to get particular types of other musical instruments. So perhaps if you are an organist and you are improvising a beautiful piece, you may start by playing on the flute stop. You may pull that one out and let us hear in a very simple way the melody that you are going to work with. It's something like that, I think, the suggestion. You have fluted something. You've played a theme, a simple melody or a theme. But now that needs to be developed. You've got this whole organ of time to work with. Play it out to the end. Don't just stop there. I think that's what she's saying. So she says, arise from the strain, their first wild plaint divined. That means that little melody that you have fluted out on the stops of this big organ. Move on, go on higher from that little strain, that melody, which those the flute stops divined. They found, they discovered a first wild plaint. Plaint is connected with complaint and plaintive. No? So you have played some music, but it's not the full, joyful, glorious harmony that can come. No? So go on from that little strain, that first wild plaint, and discover what has not yet been sung. And what she means is, she knows that she and Sathyavan still have great achievement in front of them. No? She says, I know that I can lift man's soul to God. I know that he, Sathyavan, can bring the immortal down to earth. If you will just go on, don't separate us, don't stop this music. Bhavan.
Auroville labors permitted by thy will, and without thee an empty roar of storm, a senseless whirlwind is a Titan's force, and without thee a snare of strength of words.
Yes, she's emphasizing that this is not just her self-will. She's using her will. She wants Sathyavan to be allowed to use his will. But she says, our will labors permitted by thy will. It can only work and it can only be successful if you allow it. No? Because the Titan's force doesn't care about what the Lord thinks. No? So it's just an empty roar of storm. It may make a huge noise and bang about and lightnings, but it's empty, it's meaningless, unless it's supported by the will of the Lord. All that force and strength and violence of the Titan, of the superhuman being, is just a senseless whirlwind without any purpose or aim or direction, without you. And if you are not there, then to have the strength of gods is just a snare, a trap, a dangerous illusion. Suresh.
Let not the inconscient bull swallow man's face, that through earth's ignorance struggles towards the light.
Yes. If you separate Satyavan and Savitri, then perhaps the gulf, the great deep abyss of unconsciousness will swallow up the race of human beings. But she says this race of human beings, they are struggling towards your light, Lord. They are struggling through the ignorance of earth, but that's where they want to go. So don't let them be swallowed up. Ganga Lakshmi.
Sandhava is the lightning of the soul. Give me up to darkness and to death with sorrow. Achieve the wisdom hidden from the grave, and the mandate of the sacred world wide life.
Yes. So now she calls him a thunderer. The king of the gods is often referred to as the thunderer, something so powerful. And what the lightning that you send, it's the lightning of the soul. So don't give up to darkness and to death your light, your sun. Achieve, complete, fulfill that decree, that command, that hidden but firm decree that has been given by thy wisdom. And fulfill, achieve the mandate of thy secret worldwide love. That worldwide love which has said yes to the earthly fulfillment. When she says, thy son, I'm not sure what she means. Of course, she is the sun, no? Savitri is the sun. Or if it is the light that lights the earth, the Tat Savitur, that light. The light of consciousness, energy, force. You'll read.
Most faith lost in thoughts, immensity, which sees them at the limits of their pride and keep their unique illusion, that stays to more than women ever teach has learned. From the unthinkable end of all our thoughts, and the incredible form in all those thoughts.
Yes. She's pleading with him, but now she's finished what she has to say and her words failed. It's as if there's a silence and it's almost as if she hasn't spoken. Those words get lost in the vastnesses of thought, those immensities, those vast spaces. They let the words expand as far as they can be heard, and then they seize them and hide their meaning in the distances. There are cosmic distances or maybe supracosmic distances that stir to more than ever speech has won from the unthinkable and the ineffable. Her words seem to get swallowed up in these vastnesses, and those vastnesses are moved by other things than our words, human words. That human words have ever won from that unthinkable reality where all our thought ends, that ineffable being that no words can express, but from whom all words come. Sarojini.
Then with a smile august as noonday heaven, the Godhead of the vision unfold. How shall earth's nature and man's nature raise to the celestial levels at earth abide.
So he smiles. It's a wonderful smile. Sri Aurobindo says it's august, majestic, imperial. We have this month of August, which is named after the first Roman emperor, Caesar Augustus. But they gave him that name of Augustus to express how majestic and how imperial he was. So it was his birth month. So they named that month after him. So with this wonderful, majestic smile, Sri Aurobindo says that smile is like the sky at noon. Noon is the hottest part of the day. 12, the brightest, yes, when the sun is strongest. No? And Sri Aurobindo describes him as the Godhead of the vision wonderful. This amazing appearance that Savitri is seeing. And of course there should be a verb, but Sri Aurobindo has just put this colon to tell us that what comes next is what he says. So he asks a question: how is it possible for earth nature and man's nature, human nature, to rise up to heavenly levels without the earth itself being dissolved or destroyed? How shall earth remain? How can earth abide if the earth nature gets changed to heaven nature and human beings get turned into heavenly beings? We read before how he spoke about these two powers that are forever separated, heaven and earth. And now he's returning to this idea. Alice, would you read, please?
Heaven and earth, towards each other gaze, across a gulf that few can cross, none can touch. arriving through a vague, ethereal mist out of which all things form that move in space. The shore that all can see but never reach.
Yes. So he mentioned this gulf. Actually, last time he called it a strait, a narrow piece of water. When he says gulf, it means it's very deep. Heaven and earth are on opposite sides of that gulf, gazing towards each other across that gulf, which only a very few people can cross. And none, he says, can touch it. That gulf which is emerging through a vague, ethereal mist. Mist makes things vague. Occasionally here in the spring we get mist in the early morning. We wake up and it's as if there's a cloud. We're surrounded by a cloud. We can't see to the other end of the garden clearly. A mist. So a mist makes things vague. We can't see them clearly. And this mist is ethereal. It's not happening in earthly air. It's happening in that most subtle kind of substance, ether. He says it's out of that mist that all things get formed. Everything that moves in space is formed out of that mist or that gulf. There's a shore where where land meets sea. People can see that borderline, but nobody can reach it ever. Anita.
Heaven's light visits sometimes the mind of earth. Its thoughts burn in her sky like lonely stars. In her heart there move celestial seekings soft and beautiful like fluttering wings of birds. Vision of joy that she can never win. Reverse the fading mirror of her dreams.
Yes. So heaven and earth gaze towards each other across this big gulf that's so difficult to cross. But sometimes the light from heaven does sometimes enter the mind of earth, the earth consciousness. The thoughts of heaven, he says, burn in her sky like lonely stars. Perhaps that's what the stars symbolize, these heavenly truths, these heavenly thoughts. In the heart of earth, there move soft, heavenly seekings, very, very soft, gentle, sweet movements that are beautiful, like fluttering wings of birds, soft and beautiful. And it just reminds me of an amazing experience I had once, that I was walking with a friend in Berlin, in a park in Berlin, and we were walking along the path and we were talking, and perhaps I was waving my hands about. A little blue bird came and perched on my hand. And then more came. They perched on our heads. They were all around us. So soft, so beautiful. Just amazing experience. We worked out that somebody must come there and feed them, so they thought that we were going to feed them also. But the touch of that little bird's feet and wings, something miraculous, amazing. Soft like that, beautiful, like fluttering wings of birds. But for Earth, these are just visions of joy that she can never win. She may get a vision of those delights, but she's never able to achieve them. And these visions, he says, traverse the fading mirror of her dreams. It's as if she's looking into a magical mirror and seeing images there. These images pass, she sees them, they fade, she wakes up. Okay.
Faint seeds of light and bliss were sorrowful flowers. Faint harmonies caught from an half-heard song. False swooning mid the wandering voices joy. Foam from the tusked luminous seas where dwells the beautiful and far delighted promise. Rapture unknown, a miracle happiness. Thrill her and pass half-shaped to mind and sense.
Yes. Faint seeds of light and bliss. This is coming from heaven to the earth. No? They come to earth. They're seeds that should sprout and give light and bliss. But here on the earth soil, they do flower, but their flowers are sorrowful. Coming from heaven, these harmonies, they are faint, they're only half caught, they're only half heard, these harmonies from some heavenly song. They come into the earth consciousness, and it's as if they faint. When you swoon, it's when you lose consciousness, you fall down. They fall swooning amid the jarring noise of all these wandering voices of earth. Jarring. It's what happens when there's a door not properly closed and the breeze comes and it keeps banging. The door is said to be ajar. It's not closed and it's not open. It's just in that stage where it can make that unpleasant, jarring noise. So these things that come, these seeds and these harmonies, are like foam, bubbles from wonderful, luminous seas in that realm where the delight of the gods dwells, the beautiful and far delight of gods. So like that foam drifting across the gulf to earth, those unknown raptures, intense delights, this miracled happiness. She feels them, they thrill her for a moment, and they get passed from earth consciousness to the mind, to the sense. But then they get turned into something else. Ravindra, it would be your turn.
Above her little inert steps, she feels, careless of not or pause, worlds which reel out a strange perfection beyond law and will, a universe of self-found felicity, an inexpressible rhythm of timeless leaves, the many moonlighted heartbeats of the one, magic of the boundless harmonies of self, order of the freedom of infinite, the wonder plastics of the absolute.
Yes. So her, this is earth. Above her little finite steps, Earth is limited, not infinite. No? So her steps are finite. She feels these other worlds. She senses that they are there. These worlds are weaving perfection, a strange perfection. If you're an earthly weaver, you have to pause now and then in your work. And you may find a knot in the thread that you are using, and then you have to be careful how you weave that into your fabric. But those worlds don't have to worry about pausing or knots in the thread. No? They are just constantly weaving out this strange perfection. And their perfection is beyond any law or rule. It's absolutely spontaneous. Those worlds belong to a universe of self-found felicity, of bliss, happiness, delight, that is just spontaneous, automatic. Doesn't have to be sought or aspired for. It's just there, self-found. Perhaps that universe is an expression of their perfection. And in their weaving, there's this inexpressible rhythm of timeless beats. In music, rhythm is very important, no? And the more subtle the music, the more subtle the rhythm. Here he speaks about inexpressible rhythms. You can't describe them at all. That is, these are the heartbeats of the one, but they are many movemented. They don't just have one beat. They have many varied beats. Earth feels these things, above her. This magic of the boundless harmonies of self, where oneness is felt, infinite, expressing itself in unlimited numbers of different harmonies. Expressing itself also in a sort of order, an order of the freedom of the infinite. The infinite is infinitely free, and yet there's some kind of order holding it all together in oneness. And the wonder plastics of the absolute. Here the word plastic doesn't have anything to do with plastic chairs. It has to do with sculptures, sculptured forms. So these are the wonderful forms that the Absolute creates in his infinite freedom. Narendra.
There is the all truth and there is the timeless bliss. But hers are fragments of a star lost gleam. Hers are but careless visits of the gods. They are a light that fails, a word soon hushed, and nothing they mean can stay for long on earth. There are high glimpses, not the lasting sight.
Yes. So in those wonderful worlds above, there is the all truth. And there is the timeless bliss, the bliss beyond time, the bliss unlimited by time. But hers, Earth's delights and truths are fragments. of a star-lost gleam, a light that has lost its guiding star. It's wandering, not knowing where it's going. Earth's delights are just careless visits of the gods, of the higher powers. They are a light that comes and that fails. Some wonderful creative word that soon gets silenced, hushed. And even the meanings that they convey, nothing they mean can stay for long on earth. On earth there may be high glimpses, but not the lasting sight. Leila.
A few can climb to an imperishing sun, or live on the edges of the mystic moon, and channel to earth mind the wizardry.
A few exceptional beings can climb up from the earth to an unperishing sun, a permanent sun. In terms of consciousness, this would be the supermind. No? Or they can live on the edges of the mystic moon, the overmind levels. And from there, they can channel to earth that wizard ray that works magic. Dawn.
The heroes and the demigods are few, to whom the close immortal voices speak, and to their acts the heavenly clan are near.
So on earth there may still be heroes and demigods, half divine beings. And it's to them that those immortal voices can speak. No? And the heavenly clan, the people, the tribes who live in heaven, are close to their actions. Patricia.
Few are the silences in which truth is heard, unveiling the timeless utterance in her deeds. Few are the splendid moments of the seer.
These things are rare here on earth. Those moments of silence when we hear the truth. The truth that unveils, that reveals, that timeless utterance that is there in the deeps, in the deep heart of the earth. Very few and rare are the splendid moments of the seers, those who see the truth, the rishis. Kamala. Heaven's call is rare. You wandered off to another world.
Rare in the hearts that beats. The doors of light are sealed to common mind, and earth's needs nailed to earth the human mass. Wandering in hand, uplifting hour of stress. Man answered to the touch of Creator things.
Yes, we'll pause there. So that call comes from heaven very rarely, and perhaps even more rarely is it heard. Is there a heart that hears it and responds? The doors of light are sealed, closed up, locked up and sealed to the common mind, the ordinary mind. And the needs of earth, the physical needs, nail the human mass to earth. Get really nailed to the earth. You can't possibly take off and go anywhere else. So it only happens at a very special moment, an uplifting hour, when there's some special pressure, that men respond to the touch or the call of greater possibilities. Dana.
Or raised by some strong hand to bring heavenward. They slide back to the mud from which they climb. In the mud of which they are made, whose law they know, they joy in safe return to a friendly base. And though something in them weeps for glory lost and greatness murdered, they accept it for.
Yes. So it may happen that some strong hand, mother's hand or Sri Aurobindo's hand, lifts them up so that they can breathe some higher air. But soon they just slide back down to that mud, that earth mud from which they climbed up. So there, when they get back into the mud that they are made of, this physical stuff, where they feel the law they know is familiar, they feel better, they joy, they feel happy, because they've returned safely to a friendly base, to a familiar, comforting kind of base. And something in them, the soul, may weep for that lost glory that they experienced and that greatness which seems to have been murdered. They accept their fall. Chandra.
To be the moment when they think there is to live as others live is their delight.
So this is very human. No? It's better to be ordinary, no? To live as others live, not to be too exceptional. That feels dangerous. We'll stop there for today.
O subtle souled musician of the years, play out what thou hast fluted on my stops. Arise from the strain their first wild plaint divined, and that discover which is yet unsung. I know that I can lift man's soul to God. I know that He can bring the immortal down. Our will labours, permitted by Thy will, and without Thee an empty roar of storm, a senseless whirlwind is the Titan's force. And without Thee a snare, the strength of gods. Let not the inconscient gulf swallow man's race, that through earth's ignorance struggles towards Thy light. O thunderer with the lightnings of the soul, give not to darkness and to death Thy sun. Achieve Thy wisdom's hidden firm decree, and the mandate of thy secret worldwide love. Her words failed, lost in thought's immensities, which seized them at the limits of their cry, and hid their meaning in the distances that stir to more than ever speech has won. From the unthinkable end of all our thought, and the ineffable, from whom all words come. Then with a smile august as noonday heavens, the Godhead of the vision wonderful, how shall earth nature and man's nature rise to the celestial levels, yet earth abide? Heaven and earth towards each other gaze, across a gulf that few can cross, none touch, arriving through a vague ethereal mist, out of which all things form that move in space, the shore that all can see but never reach. Heaven's light visits sometimes the mind of earth. Its thoughts burn in her sky like lonely stars. In her heart there move celestial seekings, soft and beautiful, like fluttering wings of birds, visions of joy that she can never win, traverse the fading mirror of her dreams. Faint seeds of light and bliss bear sorrowful flowers. Faint harmonies caught from a half-heard song fall swooning mid the wandering voices' jar. Foam from the tossing luminous seas where dwells the beautiful and far delight of gods. Raptures unknown, a miracled happiness, thrill her and pass half-shaped to mind and sense. Above her little finite steps she feels, careless of knot or pause, worlds which weave out a strange perfection beyond law and rule, a universe of self-found felicity, an inexpressible rhythm of timeless beats, the many movemented heartbeats of the One, magic of the boundless harmonies of self, order of the freedom of the infinite, the wonder plastics of the absolute. There is the all-truth, and there the timeless bliss. But hers are fragments of a star-lost gleam. Hers are but careless visits of the gods. They are a light that fails, a word soon hushed, and nothing they mean can stay for long on earth. There are high glimpses, not the lasting sight. A few can climb to an unperishing sun, or live on the edges of the mystic moon, and channel to earth mind the wizard ray. The heroes and the demigods are few, to whom the close immortal voices speak, and to their acts the heavenly clan are near. Few are the silences in which truth is heard, unveiling the timeless utterance in her deeps. Few are the splendid moments of the seers. Heaven's call is rare, rarer the heart that heeds. The doors of light are sealed to common mind, and earth's needs nail to earth the human mass. Only in an uplifting hour of stress men answer to the touch of greater things, or raised by some strong hand to breathe heaven air, they slide back to the mud from which they climbed. In the mud of which they are made, whose law they know, they joy in safe return to a friendly base. And though something in them weeps for glory lost and greatness murdered, they accept their fall. To be the common man they think the best. To live as others live is their delight.